Welcome to the Autoimmune Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I want you to meet Dr. Anna Sitkoff, a naturopathic doctor and medicinal mushroom guru with over 10 years of experience as co-founder and chief science officer at Medicinal. She crafts top-notch mushroom supplements to boost your immune system, lungs, and brain using only the best bioavailable extracts. A true trailblazer, and has authored a chapter in the textbook of natural medicine and published in the Journal of Immunology. She's here to spill the tea on how mushrooms can supercharge your health. So, thank you so much, Dr. Anna.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, your journey with mushrooms kicked off with your father having cancer. And that's a personal starting point, but you just let me know about your personal experience with autoimmune disease. So can you talk about a little bit of both?
Sure. Yeah. So it was definitely my father's experience with cancer that kind of first stimulated my interest in medicinal mushrooms in the way that that interest has been probably throughout the last, over 10 years. And then more recently, I've been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, a chronic autoimmune urticaria, which for those who don't know, is just like chronic hives every single day all over your body. But having that condition and also being a doctor, it's like, and my expertise is in mushrooms and the way that mushrooms impact the immune system on so many levels. It's not just mushrooms for cancer treatment, which I think a lot of people are like, oh, I should just take mushrooms to help stimulate my immune system or modulate my immune system for, preventing viruses, for supporting cancer therapy, that kind of thing. And this whole other aspect of immune modulation for autoimmune disease is not discussed so much. And it wasn't necessarily a part of my mushroom studies until more recently. If anything, people with autoimmune disease are probably told not to take too many immune stimulants, and mushrooms kind of end up in that category. But the reality is there's like one or two mushrooms that are more immune stimulating that we can talk about that I would advise probably against if you have autoimmune disease. But otherwise, mushrooms can be so supportive on so many levels of autoimmunity.
Yeah, I'd rather speak to the expert than the whole internet of Google and who knows what people come up with. So having somebody that really has been dealing and in the soil of mushrooms is better. So I really want to talk about the heart of maybe an overactive or dysregulated immune system, like you were talking about, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's. Can you break down, like what you were saying, how medicinal mushrooms can help support autoimmunity and balance the immune system to ease symptoms?
Absolutely. So when I think about autoimmune disease, the goal with treatment is always to improve immune tolerance, to calm the immune system, to create a homeostasis in the body. And so my mind always goes to what are the main triggers that dysregulate immune tolerance? And there's a long list, but I think about dysbiosis, mushrooms fit in there and really helping with your gut microbiome, various bacteria and viruses that can stimulate an autoimmune process. Mushrooms are antibacterial, they're antiviral, they stimulate the body's own antiviral mechanism. Chronic stress, even, just having a lot of adverse childhood events. It's like mushrooms aren't going to cure your adverse childhood events, but they can definitely help to restore a healthy HPA axis or adrenal rhythm. Mushrooms can also help to repair a leaky gut barrier. Mushrooms can play a big role in keeping blood sugar steady if your blood sugar is dysregulated. Too many glucose spikes, that can also trigger an inflammatory response into autoimmune disease. Mushrooms work as immune modulators.
Yeah.
And then just to back up too, is like when we're talking about mushrooms, we're talking about the above ground portion of the fungal organism. So it's what you see with the naked eye. A synonym would be fruiting body, as opposed to the mycelium or the underground portion of the mushroom that has some medicinal uses, but we're talking about mushrooms or the fruiting body. So mushrooms generally contain a lot of polysaccharides or just long sugar molecules that act as prebiotics. And through feeding the good gut bacteria, they also help to reduce more disease-causing bad gut bacteria. And then also through increasing bacteria like bifidobacterium and lactobacillus, they're going to increase something called postbiotics or short chain fatty acids that help to regulate the immune system, increase T regulatory cell function, which is often low with autoimmune disease. Mushrooms that specifically do that would be lion's mane mushroom or Herbaceum erinaceus. A lot of people have probably heard of lion's mane more for like brain and nervous system support, which it is wonderful for that. And traditionally, it's really a gut mushroom. It's used to help decrease inflammation in the intestines and to feed the healthy gut bacteria and helps to increase T regulatory cells that way. Turkey tail mushroom, again, people have probably heard of turkey tail more for supporting cancer therapy. It has polysaccharide peptides that help to increase good gut bacteria, and those postbiotics like butyrate that increase T regulatory cell function and are important for maintaining your intestinal barrier, to decrease issues like food protein sensitivities and stuff like that that often trigger autoimmunity. And then chaga is another one. It's not really a mushroom. It's mostly mycelium biomass plus a mixture of like dead tree material from the birch tree that it was grown on. So a lot of its medicine is actually not from the fungal organism itself, but it's from the birch tree, the old birch tree that it's grown on. But it contains a lot of antioxidants, a lot of polyphenols. These are all also going to support healthy gut bacteria, and also just like decreasing gut inflammation, oxidative stress in the gut can help to also maintain a healthy intestinal barrier. And this doesn't even need to be like taking mushrooms as a supplement. You're getting all of these gut benefits from just eating them. You're probably getting a lot more of the beneficial prebiotic fibers if you're just cooking them and eating them.
How did finding out about your autoimmune disease change how you look at mushrooms and how your research on finding the right mushrooms worked for your autoimmune disease?
Yeah, so my research with mushrooms, it was more just like confirming what I already thought to be true, which was looking at different extraction methods. So the difference between an alcohol extract with a mushroom versus a water extract, those are going to extract different compounds from the mushrooms that do different things, and seeing the effect of those different extracts on immune cells. So the polysaccharide rich water extract of the rosy polypore, which is the mushroom that I was studying, those stimulated the immune cells to make cytokines, which are like little cellular messengers that promote cell movement. It stimulated an antiviral response or an anti-cancer response. Those responses are very similar. It increased interleukin 12, which then increases natural killer cells and cytotoxic T cells. People with autoimmune disease probably hear that and they're like, well, I don't want a pro-inflammatory response.
Yeah, they're
and
running.
I'll say that mushrooms are amphoteric, meaning they have dual action. They can have a pro-inflammatory response and an anti-inflammatory response at the same time. They are immune modulating. But we'll put a pin in that. But just to back up again to my research, so we were looking at the polysaccharide rich water extract, and that had an effect on the immune cells where it was stimulating an antiviral, anti-cancer mechanism. And then the alcohol extract, which contained more alcohol or fat soluble compounds like triterpenes. Mushrooms have a kind of triterpene called lanthanum triterpene glycosides, doesn't matter, but those have a more direct cytotoxic effect. So they're not stimulating the anti-cancer mechanisms, they are the anti-cancer mechanisms. So this is kind of why it's important when you're taking mushroom supplements to make sure, if it is a liquid extract, that it is both alcohol and water extract. Or if you're taking a powdered extract, you want it to be a powdered powdered extract rather than just the powder. There's some mushrooms that have more of those terpenes, like reishi, for example, would be the biggest one, that when you're taking a powdered extract, it's good if it has been extracted in both water and alcohol to get the most out of those constituents.
Yeah.
So it's all very technical. I think it's difficult for researchers to talk about their research in a way that isn't technical,
but it's helping because I was looking at your Instagram and I was like, wait, what does this mean? And then with you actually talking about it, it makes more sense. I was just looking at your Instagram, and now I understand what you mean by like extracting what to look for when you're getting powder or either the tinctures. Thank you for sharing. And then I think it's amazing that this mushrooms can be, like you said, modulating. They can go with however, and you really need them to work in your body. I know you mentioned the turkey tail, lion's mane, and the
reishi.
What was the second one? Reishi.
Chaga. Yeah,
and chaga. That's one I was thinking about. Since you have all these, where can you really buy? I mean, if you wanted to eat them, because you get confused about all the different ways to eat them. I mean, to take it in a pill or powder form. How do you look for these? Or where are some places you can buy online? Or
I live in the Pacific Northwest. I'm very lucky that in most grocery stores here, there is an abundance of mushrooms. At the farmers markets here, there's an abundance of mushrooms. Where are you located?
Texas. It's hot here.
Okay. Yeah, but still, I mean, there's a lot of mycological societies in Texas. As far as like maitake and lion's mane, you could probably find them in a grocery store. Shiitake, you could also find in a grocery store. Shiitake is a little bit more on the immune stimulating side. If you are in an autoimmune flare, you don't want to necessarily be taking things that are more immune stimulating. I'd maybe not eat shiitake mushroom during that time. The more like woody medicinal ones that you're not going to be cooking up and eating. I mean, there's a lot of different companies that make different kinds of products. So we have the liquid extracts. There's a lot of companies that are doing that. And you just want to make sure that you're kind of looking for a high quality liquid extract. It has been dual extracted with alcohol and with water. Ideally, it would say like how many grams of mushroom there would be per milliliter so that you could dose it appropriately. I have a medicinal mushroom company, so I have a lot of bias. I'm like, well, you can buy them from me.
Yeah, no, please talk about that.
My mushroom combinations are, I do mushroom formulas. I don't do simples, meaning I don't have a product that's just turkey tail or just chaga. I really love real mushrooms. A big thing with autoimmunity too is, this like cross reactivity with different kinds of food proteins. And a lot of people who are sensitive to gluten or grains are going to have an issue with myceliated grain products. So when I talk about, the importance of powdered mushroom extract, the antithesis to that is these mycelium supplements that are also super common. And sometimes you'll even see a product that says mushroom on the label, and then you look at the back and it actually says reishi, mycelium, and then it says other ingredients, and it could be oats. So there could be people who have autoimmune disease that think that they react poorly to mushrooms, but meanwhile, they're taking a product that is myceliated grain, and it's actually the grain that they're having a response to. One more reason why it's important to just look for pure mushroom fruiting body. The reason why I even started my company was because I felt like there weren't enough companies around at that time that I trusted for myself or to be prescribing to my patients.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear that you took the time because of your autoimmunity to really not cut corners. And I think that's what you've seen a lot of people are finding out with a lot of products, like the red dyes and a lot of filler that people are just putting in to, I guess, just sell their product fast and quick. And it sounds like you are really taking the time as not only a doctor, but as a patient. You know that you're not going to get into remission or feel better if you're not putting the right ingredients in your body.
Totally. And it's like, I think it's really common for people who have autoimmune diseases to be kind of trying to figure out what's triggering what. And if you're looking at your supplements and there's all of these other ingredients in there and you're like, well, is this the problem or is this the problem? It's like always this game of trying to figure out like what caused the flare.
Yeah.
And so it's just like one less thing to think about. It's like, well, it's either the mushrooms or not the mushrooms. There's not like any kind of filler in here that you need to worry about. And that's also why I don't put shiitake in any of my mushroom formulas. But I don't want it to be in a product that could possibly be causing a flare or too much immune stimulation in a situation that I don't want it.
So other than Sitkoff, what other ones that you recommend for autoimmune warriors to stay clear from?
Yeah, so that's kind of the main one. There's another mushroom called Agaricus subferens that's also known as like sun agaricus. That one is also just generally like more on the immune stimulating side, but most people aren't going to find that in a grocery store. But they might find it in like kind of a kitchen sink mushroom formula. So if you're taking a mushroom supplement that has like 15 different mushrooms in it, which I don't recommend, that mushroom might be one of those 15 in the formula. And their idea is like, well, the more mushrooms, the better. Let's just throw every single mushroom in here. And people will see that there's a lot and abundance is good. So they'll want to buy it.
Yeah, I think Americans are like that. They're like, the more the better. But yeah.
Yeah, not always the case.
Yeah, and that's what you mean by a kitchen sink. Because I was reading, I was like, kitchen sink. Okay, so it's just a combination of whatever mushroom.
Yeah, it's like there's no intention in the formula. It's just, it's not a formula, it's a mixture. So you're not even getting like a therapeutic dose of any individual mushroom.
Yeah, it's just, if it happens to feel better, it's really probably not even that formula.
Yeah.
I wanted to find out, because I know on your website with your mushrooms, can you talk about you have 3 different types. You have the brain and nerve, you have the lungs, and you have the immune mushroom formulas. Can somebody with autoimmune disease take all 3, or should you stick with one, or what?
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. And the thing with mushrooms is that each mushroom can work on so many different body systems that it's like, my immune formula, I prescribe all the time for like people who have PCOS. It's also like a hormone balancer, but it's hard. You can't like list every single thing on the supplement label. Also, the lungs formula is immune modulating. It is going to also help to prevent viral illness, but the lung formula doesn't have maitake. Maitake does have kind of more specialized immune supportive benefits, working more with like blood sugar regulation. It is like very person dependent if they need to be taking more than one formula or if one formula is enough. It's not going to be harmful to be taking more than one formula. There's also a dose response curve with mushrooms where it's like more is not necessarily better. Taking 9 grams of turkey tail is not going to be better than taking 6 grams of turkey tail. So answers, it depends.
No problem. And I know you probably work with, you have your own practice. So how do you work with someone that comes to you and they have autoimmune disease? Where do you start in the dosing and figuring out how to start with mushrooms, or start eating mushrooms, or maybe taking a little dosage?
Yeah, I usually would start with just eating mushrooms just to see kind of how they respond to them. Some patients are more sensitive than others, but eating mushrooms is really, I think, the best way to support the gut microbiome. And supporting the gut microbiome is such a huge part of regulating the immune system and improving immune tolerance that is kind of often my main focus. And then mushroom supplements are just that. They're supplements. It's a supplement to your diet. If you can't get it from your diet, then you can take it as a supplement. Not everyone wants to eat mushrooms every day. So it's a nice
Everybody likes mushrooms.
option. Not everyone likes mushrooms. Yeah.
Yeah. They say it's a texture thing. I don't know. I like them.
Well, and the cool thing about mushrooms too is that they do have the beta glucans or those polysaccharides that I mentioned earlier. They have this effect on the immune system where they can stimulate immune training. So what that means is that you can take mushrooms for a period of time, say a month, and that can also be just eating mushrooms every day for a month. And that immune modulation that is kind of taught during that time continues even when you're not taking in the mushrooms anymore for quite a long time. So you can do kind of this initial therapeutic dose of maybe just like eating a bunch of mushrooms all the time for a month or taking the mushroom supplements, and then you can take a break or just have them like every once in a while, a few times a week or something like that. And your immune system will continue to benefit. I mean, so your body doesn't like build tolerance to mushrooms. Like they're not going to kind of like stop working if you're taking them all the time. But what I'm saying is that you just don't need to take them all the time. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
So you can take a break, just, decrease supplement fatigue that I'm sure a lot of people experience.
With medicinal mushrooms, I know you said that it can help with autoimmune systems like chronic fatigue or inflammation. Can you share any stories or maybe share something about yourself where something really successful happened with feeling better?
Hmm. Um, Let me just kind of go through my case
Rolodex.
studies in my head and I mean, I can even just kind of tell you just for myself personally. It's like I think that part of what has kept me so interested and inspired with mushrooms, because it really feels like, I mean, this has been a passion of mine for so long, is that I feel so good with mushrooms. They have been like my greatest allies throughout my adult life. They've been my ally through dealing with my father's death, through going through medical school, through chronic fatigue after medical school. And then now with this new autoimmune condition, it's like they've always been there. And it's like, I think maybe for some people hearing that, they're like, well, you were taking mushrooms all this time and you still ended up with an autoimmune disease. It's like they can't do it all. And who knows what that would look like without them? Like perhaps it would have been even more exaggerated. Perhaps it would have been worse. Perhaps I wouldn't be able to work and have the quality of life that I do. It's like I can still, I think of mushrooms like energetically, they are very, very grounding. And I think that for anyone who's going through a big transition and any kind of upheaval and like the normal ups and downs of life, like mushrooms can be this really grounding force in that way. And that's honestly where I've seen mushrooms come in the most, not only in my life, but in my practice for my patients. It has really been for nervous system support, for helping them feel like they can take on whatever stressors come their way and that they'll like be okay on the other side.
I'm so glad that you're bringing this up because with autoimmune disease, you kind of get almost afraid of what to eat, or what to do. Like we were just talking about, was it the flare due to I didn't get enough sleep or the stress at work or just life? What did I eat? So you almost have this background of anxiety behind you or in you. And it's hard to really, I mean, you can do meditation, you can do other things, but if you can have something to help you through that too, much, much better.
I think like as far as the mushrooms go, like I really think of reishi the most for that, just like helping to build resilience. And just for the listeners out there who are like, but what mushroom would be best? I think
Yeah.
like
Thank
reishi
you.
mushroom, the mushroom of immortality, is ultimately the best for building resilience. Yeah.
Awesome. That makes sense. Another thing I heard you say with those different times in your life, do you mind talking about that? Like which ones you used during those different phases?
Sure. Yeah. So at that time, before I was a doctor, I was really a wild crafting herbalist. And so everything that I took, it was mushrooms that grew locally that were wild crafted. But so it was mostly a lot of a mushroom called artist conch or Ganoderma oplanatum, which is a very close relative to the reishi mushroom, Ganoderma lucidum. And then there's another local reishi mushroom here called Ganoderma organense. And those mushrooms, along with red-belted polypore, another local mushroom here in the Pacific Northwest, but really grows everywhere, and in turkey tail, I would just like have them all in a crock pot, just like going constantly. And I would just drink that tea all the time. I would even do mushroom fasts where I would go like many days without food and just be drinking the mushroom tea just to kind of get to know them on a deeper level. The most important part of that medicine was actually the act of just like being in the forest and collecting the mushrooms and getting to know them in that way. Even if I wasn't collecting them, that would have been good medicine. I think that just spending time away from the noise that is our world and being in the forest and wildcrafting, you felt like, I think, some of the deepest medicine from that time in my life.
Yeah, I'm hearing forest bathing and
Totally.
you're getting the mushrooms, you're getting the soil on your hands, you're doing some type of grounding also.
Exactly. And moving my body. And it's all just like very gentle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, you're picking up something so gentle. So yeah.
Yeah.
How else do you work with, as a naturopath, with people that have autoimmune disease in integrating your mushroom experience?
Yeah, I mean, mushrooms are such a big part of my life, and they're also such a small part of my medical practice, right? It's like there's so many aspects of autoimmune disease that it's like mushrooms come in sometimes and sometimes they don't. And it's like if I know that somebody has a specific viral trigger, if they have Epstein-Barr virus, which is so common with autoimmune disease, then I will absolutely use mushrooms to help decrease the viral load in that area. If they don't have a viral load, and maybe I'm not using mushrooms. It really depends so much on the person and what their triggers are. And with all of my patients, we go through a pretty long list of looking at every possible dietary trigger, viral, chemical, psycho-emotional, kind of the whole picture of their life now and what their life has been like, from the time they were a child, to kind of see what has led them to this point. And then once we have a grasp on that web, then there's certain things where I'm like, oh, well, like mushrooms fit in here. Mushrooms fit into the pathogen part. Mushrooms fit into the gut part. But maybe I recommend that they do some kind of like EMDR or other kinds of therapies to help with the psycho-emotional aspect, where mushrooms, of course, can help to support a nervous system and resilience in that way, but they're not everything.
Yeah.
And I really try to, in my practice, it's so important to me to have a really open mind to, where mushrooms fit in, where diet fits in, where drugs fit in. And the goal is always like for the person to feel better, and whatever it takes to get there, it's like, it's okay if it's not a mushroom that helps get them there.
Yeah. So it sounds like you are open to more psychedelic mushrooms if a person has autoimmune disease. Have you ever?
Sure.
Yeah. What is the outcome, on how long do they have to work in that space, or do you recommend them working with a therapist?
Talk therapy is not necessarily going to help somebody kind of deal with the day-to-day of being in chronic pain or chronic itching or just like chronically not feeling well. And I think that with some psychedelic mushrooms, so with like psilocybe species, which is where psilocybin comes from, that can be really helpful at just like rewiring your experience, like having a different relationship to the pain, the fatigue, the itching, whatever it may be. And if you can find a therapist in your area that works with psychedelics, like that's awesome. Even just like microdosing Taking a little bit every few days can be helpful for a lot of people, even just with like mental focus, if you're dealing with brain fog, or energy, if you're dealing with fatigue, and the depression, anxiety aspect of chronic illness as well. That's something that it's not legal in Washington, so I don't do that in my practice, but I think that it would absolutely be quite helpful for people.
I know you went through you had your own experience in helping your, not food cravings, but your association to food.
Oh, yeah. 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 So I had an eating disorder in high school, and then in college, I had a hard time kind of rebalancing or like reintegrating just like that feeling of like fullness, basically, which I think happens to a lot of people who have had any kind of eating disorder. It's like even when the eating disorder itself might be cured or in remission and you're psychologically okay with like eating again, it's hard to kind of get your cues, your signaling back. And I had an experience with psilocybe mushrooms that I really think helped to rewire my brain in a way that it was like I can pinpoint, like after that experience, my hunger cues were just like normal again. So with autoimmune disease, I mean, it's like if you had something trigger a flare in the past, there's a lot of like fear that can come with what was that trigger, or trying to stay away from certain things, trying to stay away from exercise or stress, or becomes like a very tense environment. There's a lot of guarding. And I think that mushrooms can be really helpful for rewiring that. And I think that lion's mane itself could be helpful for rewiring for those out there who don't want to have an experience with a psychedelic mushroom. It's like lion's mane could be a good alternative gut. So with autoimmune diseases like atrophic gastritis, there's research on lion's mane showing that it helps to decrease inflammation significantly. Also with inflammatory bowel disease, I always just think of lion's mane. There's research with lion's mane and ulcerative colitis. So I use lion's mane for treatment of those conditions. And then for MS, of course, I mean, lion's mane helps to stimulate nerve growth factor synthase, which is important for myelin sheath formation. And so lion's mane can come in there as well for MS. It's like not only is it helping to heal the nerves, but it's also helping to calm the immune system and promote more immune tolerance. And then tremella, which is a mushroom we didn't really talk about very much. It's in my brain and nerves formula, but it's actually, it's like, it's also called snow fungus. It's like a very wet mucilaginous mushroom. And so it really helps to improve mucous membrane moisture. And so I use that mushroom a lot for Sjogren's specifically.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's so dry.
Everything's so dry. Yeah. These like moist mushrooms can be really helpful, especially tremella. And then reishi can really help to decrease something called TGF beta, which can increase like fibrosis in the body. And so conditions like scleroderma is kind of the main one I think of, with reishi specifically being able to decrease that fibrotic change that can take place.
I know you talked about reishi for PCOS. Would that work for people that have endometriosis?
So reishi and maitake specifically for PCOS. Reishi can be helpful for PCOS through decreasing dihydrotestosterone levels, which is like the kind of more potent testosterone that's made in the body. And with endometriosis, I mean, there's so much involved there, but mushrooms come into play with endometriosis more from a gut microbiome perspective. It's like, it's very common for people who have endometriosis to have dysbiosis or unbalanced gut flora. The estrogen excess component of endometriosis can also be treated through restoring healthy gut microbiome. Reishi itself doesn't specifically like help to lower excess estrogen levels. It can help to support the liver in estrogen detoxification. There hasn't been research with that. That's more of just like me postulating based on what I know of reishi and liver support. But yeah, I don't think about reishi too much for endometriosis specifically.
Just eating mushrooms in itself is going to help with the gut, and then adding these other like extracts or powders is
Totally.
helpful.
Yeah. And it's like with endometriosis, it's like if you are eating more fiber, you're going to be helping to increase estrogen detoxification through the gut. So mushrooms are a great source of fiber, great source of dietary fiber. So they can be helpful in that way.
What other advice, as you being the expert and a doctor, for the autoimmune community to feel more confident and proactive in using medicinal mushrooms for their health journey?
Yeah, my main advice is to just keep it as simple as possible. Maybe start with one mushroom at a time, either through diet or if you're looking for a mushroom supplement, just keep it simple. Just you want it to say mushroom powdered extract. You don't want there to be any other ingredients in it. Just take away all of the noise of the supplement world and just keep it simple so that you know exactly like how it is affecting you. And then, it's like once you maybe take reishi and reishi feels good, you respond well, then you can think about adding in other mushrooms, having it be a formula. Always look on the label of every single mushroom supplement and make sure it doesn't say mycelium or myceliated grain, because there's always a possibility that that grain isn't going to play well with your system. And so just stick with the powdered mushroom extracts. It could also say powdered mushroom fruiting body. Same.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Anything else you would like to add before we part ways?
I feel like part of my job in this world is to kind of help spread the word that mushrooms are amazing medicine and amazing food, and we as humans have evolved with mushrooms. And yeah, just don't be afraid of them. If you eat them, make sure to cook them. Don't eat raw mushrooms. Cook them up, get all those bioavailable compounds, and yeah, make them a part of your diet. See how you feel.
From her groundbreaking research to her game-changing formulas at Lucidum Medicinal, she's empowering us all to harness the power of mushrooms for better health, especially for those navigating autoimmune challenges. Want to dive deeper? Check her blog at Reishi and Roses. I saw that, and it is a deep dive into mushrooms. So, and also explore her physician-crafted supplements at Lucidum Medicinals. And thank you, Anna, for dropping all this fungal wisdom on us. And hopefully we can add in those mushrooms to our lives and feel much better.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for having me.